I'll turn this over to Gavin. Most of you guys know Gavin. Gavin's been very supportive of us for the last I don't know how many years. He's a very well-known filmmaker locally, lives in California and Windsor, works in both places, and he just taught a class for us in this room on Saturday, and you're back again. Turn it over to you.
Yesterday, Sunday.
Yes.
For those who don't know me, I'm Gavin Booth. I grew up in Amherstburg, diehard film fanatic since I was a kid, making Lego stop motions in my bedroom, convincing all the neighborhood kids. The minute I could get a job, I got a Windsor Star paper route, so I owe the Windsor Star everything for allowing me to become Carrier of the Year once in Amherstburg, and that made my parents believe I was going to keep the job and lent me the money to buy a VHS camcorder so I could start making movies when I was a kid. All my younger brother and my neighbors were my actors, and I think just like any other, I went and saw The Fabelmans recently. I'm like, yeah, I know that kid. I've seen that kid around Amherstburg. I'll keep it brief, and I like to do these more in a question-answer thing, so that I'm actually talking about things people want to hear. But the brief history is, I don't have a post-secondary education. I went to the illy named General Amherst High, North Star High School now in Amherstburg. I had a teacher there that really gave me the freedom to use the video gear whenever I wanted. Keith Herrick was entering some of my work into contests that I didn't know about. There was a Hamilton Film Club. So even in high school, I had started winning a few awards for these little videos that I was making, and it just fueled me to go a little bit further with what I wanted to do. And I finished, I was like, I want to go to UCLA like Spielberg. And I went, oh, how much are international student fees? Wait a minute, my parents just got divorced. I don't think that's reality. And I just sort of decided, I don't think I want to do that at all. I'm going to just start my own business and start making movies. At that time, people like Kevin Smith and Robert Rodriguez had all these stories in the media of sold his car and his comics and took $25,000 and made a movie. I'm like, I'm going to do that. I'm just going to go make a movie. That's how easy it is. You make your movie, you put it in Sundance, and then your whole life has changed. So I did that, made a movie. No one saw it. Didn't get into Sundance. Didn't recoup the $25,000. Barely finished making the movie. But the hindsight on that is that was my film school. It was the learn by failing approach. And I did that for a long time, just kind of stumbling in the dark, and every once in a while landing a music video or doing something that actually resonated and people liked. And I've just sort of been self-taught since then. And when I was, coming out of high school in youth here, I tried to go immediately to anybody in Windsor. There was Marty Adler at Great Lakes Television. Sometime around the beginning of my career, Nick Shields had left the university and was starting his shop. I just went to anybody and said, how do I do this? How do I do this? And got a lot of very frustrating information of how difficult it was going to be. But I was young and brash. There's an easier, quicker way to do this. I'm just going to do this all on my own. Only to keep failing for a while until things started to kind of work out. And back then I was very frustrated that Windsor didn't have a film scene, and I wanted to unite more people. But there were really maybe 4 people seriously interested in making films back then. So there just wasn't there was no resources like the center. There wasn't a room like this full of people that are kind of passionate about it. I know a lot of that has changed with the technologies. Anybody with an iPhone or a DSLR camera and a laptop can make content and become a YouTube creator or TikTok or music videos. It's gotten a little easier so that there's always a little bit more interest in what's happening. What was fun though was eventually I stayed in Windsor, I say sometimes longer than I should have, because I didn't leave Windsor until 2015 to go to, or 2013 to go to Toronto. And I did Toronto for a few years, and then had the opportunity to move out to Los Angeles and get a green card. And I was there with zero intention of ever coming home. Then there was this pandemic thing that made crossing the border very difficult. So my wife is a full-time actress, works in Canada and the US, and Canada just got production back on their feet faster than America. And we said, I think it's time to go home for a little while. We're going to stare at walls for a while. She'd stare at cheap walls, so let's go to, she's from Montreal. I said, well, Windsor has cheaper walls than anywhere else that I know of. So we did that. We've been back just over 2 years now, and actually just bought a house here, and now I've just reshifted everything that this will be like the permanent home base, and we can always travel for work. I was just in Los Angeles shooting a movie for most of January and part of February. I was just in New Orleans for work, so now, especially that Zoom meetings are a regular thing, I don't have to be in the city, because constantly I was told when I lived here before, you're going to have to leave. Everybody you need to meet, they're here, they don't want to talk on the phone, you've got to be there, you've got to meet people. And I benefited greatly by going to Toronto for a few years, and I definitely benefited by being in Los Angeles for 6 years. But the truth is the world has just changed, and I don't think it's going back. So don't ever believe that creating media here means 100% you have to leave or live somewhere else to pursue your art. It just means you'll have to be willing to travel when the work opportunity is there, and spend some time up there networking or going to film festivals or whatever you can do. But you really can pursue it from anywhere these days. You know, look, there's an actor that just came in the room that was on The Boys recently, you know, and he didn't have to leave Windsor to book that gig. You know, and I know a lot of filmmakers here that they get to travel and go to festivals and book work all over that doesn't require leaving Windsor. So the briefest history is I've done 150 music videos. I would say 130 of those were probably filmed in Windsor, Essex County. One of them brought me a platinum record and has like 60 million views online. That was shot on Boblo Island, of all things. We did a movie when Amanda and the kids' film camp used to be on Olette Avenue. What was the address there? 443? Something like that? No.
709.
709. So close. Across from the Bull and Barrel. It was the old Knights of Columbus Hall and the bingo place. We shot a movie in there in 2013 called The Scare House. They got picked up by Universal Studios, which was just wild beyond imagination that a little movie that we made here could get picked up by a major studio and released all over the world. And that really said, okay, I can make the movies that I want in Windsor. I don't have to be somewhere else. Even if I find the money somewhere else or bring in cast from somewhere else sometimes, then I had to bring in the majority of my crew from Toronto or Montreal to work on the movie. But what's been interesting being back, having a perspective of somebody who left Windsor, is now that I'm back, you know, like Ken and Shane and Garrett and Leo, everybody here, there's a good contingent of film people here now where to make a small indie feature, and especially short films and music videos, I don't have to look outside of Windsor at all to find the crew and to get the gear. And that's been a really interesting change. I think part of it is attributed to the pandemic of people who were graduating university that might have like jumped ship immediately or already had their year in advance plan of, I'm getting the hell out of here so I can find work in my field. It just kind of kept people here with that uncertainty, but because of that, everybody started working together. And like when I was starting out, it's also, I think, a product of being in your 20s, is everybody's a little more competitive, you're a little more brash, the bands here don't want to work together. One band gets on the radio, everybody else hates that band all of a sudden, instead of like learning from them how to get on the radio. And the film scene was a little bit more like that. And I was a shit disturber at the time because I was just trying to like do whatever it took to get my name out there. When the Windsor Film Festival started, they didn't show any local films, which I thought was atrocious. So in their second year, I started the FU Windsor Festival, which stood for Filmmakers Unite. Didn't go over very well with politicians or Mark Boscario, who ran the film festival at the time. But what was born out of that was an agreement that I would discontinue running the FU Film Festival every year if they started supporting local filmmakers. And that birthed the 48-hour film challenge that happens every year through their festival. So Ken, how many of those have you done?
14.
14. Is that every year?
Missed the very first year. I organized it the fourth year, and I missed 2019.
So back then, it's pretty, you know, you had the opportunity to make a short film where somebody just gave you a deadline, so there's no excuses not to do it. Then you get to screen it and you know, meet a bunch of peers and work in the film industry. So that's been great because that's been ongoing every single year. And now they actually have a whole local programming section. They show features that have been shot in Windsor, and even by some sort of expats like Windsors that have left, and you know, they still show their work here in Windsor. So it's really nice to see a huge turn of events, you know, almost 20 years later, that Windsor is a place that you can live and create and make these projects. So my wife and I just looked at it as like, listen, we shot a movie here in 2018 as well called Last Call. That's played all over the globe. It's on HBO in Europe, it's on Peacock in the US, it's on Amazon in the US. We run a bunch of awesome film festivals in Italy and Napa Valley Film Festival. But it's all made right here, primarily by Windsorites, except for one American. But he co-wrote it with me, so I couldn't get rid of him. But yeah, it's just, I just kind of love that shift. But you know, I've also had the opportunity, we get to create the world's very first live movie. We did a project for Blumhouse, if you're familiar with them. They made movies like Get Out and Paranormal Activity. We pitched them the idea to do the very first live movie, and it was when live streaming was becoming popular, and the first one was Periscope. If you can remember, way back 5 years ago, before Facebook Live and Instagram Live and everything took over, it was sort of the first one in town. So we said we want to do kind of like a Blair Witch Project style thing where people will believe this live stream, this narrative movie with actors. It's all pre-planned. but treat it like it's a live event, this horror movie, and pull the wool over people's eyes, which we did very successfully to the point that the LAPD showed up. And I thought, I was like, this is where I lose my green card that I just got a year ago. Yeah, so I've had the opportunity to work with a handful of celebrity musicians and bands and actors, and I'm just very excited. Just bought a house here, so like I said, planning on being planted here. I've always helped out with Amanda's film camp. I've been teaching courses here at the center. I had the opportunity to walk through here with Amanda before any of these renovations were done, when it was still the mission. So when I came in here yesterday for the first time to see that there's a space that we can all meet and a building designed to bring us together and to help us share our dreams and find each other. Networking is the most powerful thing. Every film festival I go to, I try to meet everybody, because you never know who's going to be your next collaborator. And I'm just happy to be kind of home and part of that. And part of being home is Six at the back of the room, we mentioned very quickly. He's got an awesome Bell 5-1 series that I'm helping him produce. We did another Bell 5-1 series about the Scarehouse Windsor here in town. So it's awesome that there's even these new chunks of regional money. There's the arts grants through the city that didn't exist when I left Windsor and are back, so I applied for one of those and going to make a short film that Garrett is shooting. So it's already trying to weave myself back into being part of what's happening here in Windsor. But I'll leave it at that and just kind of open it up to like questions and discussion, because that's far more interesting than me just rambling about things I've done years ago.
What's the best way to contact you and look up some?
You can, my email is just my full name, Gavin Michael Booth @gmail.com. If you find me on Instagram, there's I think the link in my bio goes to like a link tree that has like samples of some of my work and stuff. You can, I think if you Google, you just find my phone number. It's pretty easy to find me.
Facebook Messenger.
Facebook Messenger works, yeah. Yeah.
I've got like a 5-second memory.
Yeah.
We can find that.
Same
Someone
here.
got that, right?
Anyone else?
I got one for you, Gavin.
Sure.
I know you tried to challenge yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Some of your biggest projects have all been single take, and I know I tease you about single take all the time, lack of editing.
Yeah.
Why is it that you keep pushing yourself like that? Because you did Periscope 15, then you did just 20, and then Last Call is all. It's 2 single takes.
Yeah.
Why do you keep pushing that? Like, is that to challenge you, or is that just to see what you can do?
So single take, what he's talking about is shooting a movie where you don't cut at all. When you yell action and you yell cut, you have completed the entirety of the film. So a lot of my favorite music videos coming up were these one-take music videos. I think that's where I first saw the format. And I just kind of loved it. There's something like really kinetic and energetic about where everything has to go right in this take. And you see some of the flaws. You see some of the actors like stutter over a word, but it just makes them, it feels more real than when everything's so rehearsed and so edited to perfection. And I think that's just part of what I've come to learn. It's something that only hindsight can teach you, that I feel like the flaws and the imperfections are sort of the shine to my projects. I think for better, I like approaching things and getting realistic performances from actors and just really making the audience sort of feel what the characters are going through. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge, but Robert, he figured it out best. He said, I figured you out. He says, you just don't want to edit. So if you're shooting on tape, you don't have to edit anything. I was like, that's true, but the amount of gray hair shooting in single takes has given me is, and our film Last Call was shot, it's actually 2 single takes shot at exactly the same time. All downtown Windsor. You're seeing 2 sides of a story unfold simultaneously. So it deals with a very simple premise of a man attempting to call a suicide hotline, but he misdials by 1 digit because he's already been drinking, and he's sort of got this piece of paper with a number that he wrote down in it. It's all crinkled, and he gets connected with a woman who's a night janitor at a college. We shot her end of it in the Mediaplex, just down that direction, right? I don't, and in Victoria Park Place was our main apartment set for the gentleman. There's other places and bars downtown in the streets. But the premise of the movie is once she figures out why he's calling, she sort of does the right thing, even though she has a job to worry about completing, to stay on the phone and try to change the outcome of his decision. And we chose single take for that because we wanted the audience to live in every single tense moment where she's not a trained mental health professional. So everything that she says, every decision to question him could anger him. Sometimes he hangs up the phone, things that you just don't know where it's going. And we just wanted the audience to sort of sit on the edge of their seat of like, you're trapped. There's no cutting. There's no fading to fade out and come back in when a new scene starts. You're just forced to kind of live in it with her experience. So kind of putting you in the driver's seat with the character of Beth. If anybody wants to see that, in Canada, it's just now it's available on YouTube 100% for free. You can just go watch it and check it out. Our plan with most of our movies is after 3 or 4 years that they've kind of been out in the commercial world and earned their money, it's just more important for us to, we make movies for people to see movies, so they've been financially successful, just put them out there so that everybody can see them.
Have you ever wanted to do any movies like in Hollywood type movies, or like are you trying to head to that?
Like in terms of
way?
budget or shooting in Hollywood?
Like in Hollywood, like anywhere.
I just shot a movie in Hollywood in January. We shot a movie called Sydney vs. Sean. I don't know if anybody here is a fan of Pretty Little Liars, but the star of the movie was Janelle Parrish. And if you watch Grey's Anatomy in like the first 5 or 6 or 7 years, T.R. Knight, who played George O'Malley, is her co-star in the movie. And that was a lot of fun, because the whole time that I lived in Los Angeles, I shot shorts, I shot music videos, I shot corporate videos, but I never did a feature while I was there, which was one of my goals. So it took leaving Los Angeles to end up going back, and so I got to direct a feature in Los Angeles. That was the first feature that I've directed that was written by somebody else, that wasn't written by me. So a little easier than having to do all of the fundraising and everything else that comes with it. Just be like, oh, I just show up and direct? This sounds awesome.
Do you feel that you can bring to Windsor what's all the films have been doing in Detroit? Because there's so much filmmaking going on in Detroit right now.
Yeah.
Do you think you can start that kind of base here and be able to work with, especially with the US dollar the way it is? Do you see more stuff happening, a couple shots over there, a couple shots here? Bring something to Windsor on your back?
Bringing some, yeah, I already, my next feature will be shot here. In the fall, we shot segment 1 of an anthology film that's going to have 5 segments total. It was a Los Angeles-based director and a Minneapolis-based producer. I brought them here to shoot, Garrett and Ken and Shane. You worked on that too, right? No? Not Shane. I don't know. Yeah, I remember all my career, I promise. But yeah, so that was sort of a little trial test run of bringing people that I've met that are super talented from other countries and other regions to come here. And you know, they're like, we need this old farmhouse, and we can't find that in LA. I'm like, come to Windsor, we have them everywhere. We have them every 10 steps in Essex, you know? So yeah, I'm planning on, you know, we have an American actress that's coming to do this film, this next film that I'm doing. So very set on that. There's complications with the border, because, you know, you have to pay for work permits and things to bring people across. I think more so it's about, you know, London, Ontario started a film office, Hamilton has theirs. You know, I think there's a better and faster chance of pulling production, you know, from Toronto and the GTA area to possibly come here and shoot. But
We're hoping to get a film office in this building.
yeah,
That's what we all do. Shoot in this
I'll
building.
fight you on that one if I have to start paying for permits. Because I'll say this, the city has been amazing. Every time I closed the Lead Avenue once for 7.5 hours, Ryan was there, lent us the PA for that one. It's the music video with 300 dancers and actors and extras, and they closed the street for, I can't even say it in public, but such a low amount of money, and they're like, what do you need? Do you want a cop car? Do you want a city bus? I'm like, I'm just like, I tell my friends in LA, they're like, so you live in Narnia, because none of this exists. But the city has always been, even when we did Last Call, because we were doing a single take outside of the Mediaplex, there's a row of parking, but we needed our actress to be able to pull a minivan into the exact spot that we needed every time we did a take. So they're very gracious to close off parking spots. Like, the city will work with you, and the business owners here are so generous. Like, I can't think of a time that I've gone to somebody and said, can we use your location, that they've said no, unless they weren't going to be there or conflicted with business hours and wasn't possible. It's just been, I could do a walking tour of downtown Windsor of every single building and apartment and things that I filmed in over the years. It's just a very giving city. And that's fundamental to independent filmmakers, because most of us don't have a whole lot of money at the beginning when we're doing things. So I think the trick when you're starting out is to write, you know, more contained things, like fewer actors, fewer locations, and special effects maybe, and you have a better shot at just getting that project completed on the map and looking at the paths to funding. And I had done all of that so that when Scarehouse rolled around, there's Telefilm Canada, which is like sort of the main and the biggest film grants body and film funder in Canada. They backed our film, The Scarehouse, which was a significant amount of money. It was about half the budget came from just that one funding source. So yeah, it's just, but when you're starting out, to me, it's don't ever be restricted by, oh, I don't have the right gear, oh, I don't know that many people, oh, I can't find the location. Like, you can do it. If you're shooting on an iPhone, Steven Soderbergh shoots a movie on his iPhone. It doesn't matter. The gear does not matter. Like show talent of how you use that camera, how you work with actors, and all that ever matters at the end of the day is how good is the script. Because nobody walked out of Transformers 5 that I know of that said, man, at least they shot that on an Arri Alexa camera with Panavision lens. Holy cow, what a masterpiece. They walked out and said, oh, it's a piece of shit. And all of the technical and all of the skill that went into it and the score and the CGI, it doesn't matter if the story doesn't work. So, your story is king. Write interesting stories, find interesting actors to play those roles, and that's like 70% of your battle. All of the technical can always get better, but if you're starting out, don't feel any kind of imposter syndrome that your stories won't hold up to everybody else that's out there.
So what you're going into that point a bit more, you're saying that maybe using digital versus traditional film isn't going to make any difference, right? For most people?
I don't know anybody who shoots on film anymore.
Or are you in a position that still does make a difference?
Yeah. I think, like most things are digital cameras. Obviously, the Spielbergs of the world, the Tarantinos are still shooting on film. A show like Succession still shoots on actual 35mm film rolling through a camera, but it's cost prohibitive. It's becoming archaic. It's still beautiful. It's amazing. If you can afford it, go do it. It's also a very specific skill set that's largely being lost as the generation crosses over, because now there's just a whole array of affordable, like mid-range cameras that most of the audience would not be able to tell the difference as long as it's in the capable hands of a cinematographer. If you looked at my demo reel, like every other one, I have to be like, that's a different camera, that's a different camera, that's a different camera, that's a different camera, of all different the lenses matter, and the people, the lighting, and the people making the film, and the amount of care they're putting into capturing the best possible image. Digital is just so much more freeing to pull a card out of the camera, put it in your laptop, and start editing immediately without having to send it to a lab, pay for the processing, get the film back. And now probably you would take that film and digitally scan it into the computer anyways. And there's a million ways to make your digital video look closer to film. There's filters and grain that you can apply over top of it. So if you're a film purist, awesome, but still shooting on film will not make a better script.
Outside of that topic, does that popcorn maker work?
I don't know.
Will there be popcorn?
I think it's until somebody signs up to volunteer to clean
Unrelated
it, because
question.
that's the pain in the butt.
I know music is hard.
Mhm.
I pitched it to people, and they said it's a broad thing, and it's hard subject. But I want to do a movie, a documentary in this place, so nobody has to go nowhere. They're all here.
Yep.
Every
Just lock
Monday
the
we do
doors.
it.
We can't leave till it's done.
You got your lines, you got your script, you got the cameras, action. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Everybody in this room is a writer, cameraman, editor, producer, videographer, whatever they do. They specialize that. What's stopping us?
Nothing. Like,
Help me out then. You got my card, call me.
It takes a leader to motivate. Half of this industry is just making other people
Mindset.
believe in, not making other people, politely convincing other people to believe in you, that they want to take the journey and the collaboration with you. And actors have that. Like, it doesn't matter how much raw talent you have inside of you, you're going to have to just audition and audition until you just prove and show people that you're the right person for the role. And even sometimes you are the right person for the role, but there's somebody else that's like so similar. Like, even when you lose a role, it doesn't mean that you're not talented or they didn't like you. It's just sticking it out. And like every film project that I've had, every one that we go like, this should be a simple one to find the money for and make this happen. It rarely is. Like, any film that's completed, a short film or feature film, I don't care how good or bad it turns out. I commend the filmmaker that you finished, because it is so difficult to get anything together, to rally a group of people together, to get everything filmed on schedule, on budget, get it all the way through post without being exhausted or running out of money, and then to get it into a film festival or screen somewhere is like a minor miracle. Because for every short film you see, for every feature film you see, I can tell you all of the horror stories of other people who started a project, or maybe never even got off the couch and started the damn thing. It's just about being able to self-motivate yourself. And I'm an introvert at home. Nobody here would believe it, but when I go out in public and I'm around other filmmakers, I'm very extroverted, because I sort of like, I like to think of it as a positive energy vampire, where like I feed off of other people's like passions and desires. It makes, I'll go home tonight and be like, yeah, I'm gonna write my new script. Like, I love coming out to events and meeting people. So I think the more you do that, the more you involve yourself in other people's projects. You know, if you volunteer to hold a boom mic on this person's set, generally they're decent enough to realize the value of trade, that like when you need them to come PA or hold a camera on your set, that they're gonna be there to trade off. And you know, there's a handful of filmmakers here in the room. We constantly trade gear, like, hey, I need your lenses this day, I'm gonna need this. Hey, can you do me a favor and shoot some drone footage? Yeah, no problem, I'll come hold a boom on this. Or even Vampire Zombies that was shot here, I ended up acting in the film. I don't know if anybody asked me to act, but I'm in that film. But like, they needed somebody that day, and I'm like, look, if you really want somebody to mess up the scene, I'll come do it. But yeah, I think it's about willing to always give back. Don't just be a taker. If you're gonna be actively involved in any community, you have to give as much as you are asking of people.
So my second question, have you ever did any movies on music?
I have done documentaries on music, and I am in the throes of a very, very complicated feature which involves all music. But there are a lot of rights to secure for that from all the different artists, and that is the
Can we see it on YouTube?
No, it's not done.
Oh, it's not done. What were the previous ones though?
The documentary stuff, yeah, it's all out there. I can send you links to it. Yeah.
Please, just
I
tell
used to-
us, because I'm recording you right now.
I started my career.
And send it.
I guess I can run for office now. I actually started something I left out, but it is sort of like, you know, going to be marked on my gravestone. I think is I used to make, sorry CBC and other media outlets in Windsor. I used to make fake laminate passes and bring a microphone and a camera to concerts in Detroit because I was a broke artist and I loved going to see live shows, but I didn't have any more money. So I just convinced them that I was there with a camera, tripod, and a microphone, and a fake laminate pass. And I was from the I'm from the Canadian media, eh? Like, if I don't get this interview, I'll get fired. And they're like, you're not on the list. 9 out of 10 times, they put me on the list, and I get to meet all my favorite bands and shoot a little bit of the show. So that got me into shooting concert videos for some bands, and eventually doing music videos. And the documentaries for music that I've done are generally about the making of a band, or of an album. So I would go like live with an artist in the studio and film the entire process of making a record, and then that would get released as a DVD, either separately or packaged with their CD when CDs existed. Yes. It's not even that long ago, but it's forever ago, right? Any other questions? We want to go back to networking.
My question for you is when do you, because it's like, one of the hugest debates that I've had is passion versus work.
Yep.
You know, and like, where have you been at in your career where you've had to draw certain lines where you were doing something because you just absolutely loved it and you enjoyed every second of it, and you just went to bed thinking about it, woke up thinking about it, and those other times where it was just to get a paycheck?
Job. I'll say it's about 7 or 8 years, but I've stopped doing anything just for the paycheck. Some people can do that. Some people make a wonderful career doing all these TV commercials, and that's where the money is. Go make TV commercials if you want to get into production. I despise it. I hate it, and I'm very good at self-sabotaging for projects that I don't want to be on. So commercial projects, I just end up doing a bad job. Every once in a while, a project comes along. Like I had one last year where they're like, we want this to feel like it's in a single take, and it has to be really emotional. We want people, I'm like, I can do this job, you know. But generally, I stay away from it, and I've just learned that if you are passionate and you are practicing your talent and you are networking, you will always find the money to pay your rent. You will always find gigs that align with what you're trying to do. So I've just doubled, but it's also by not just taking paycheck jobs. Because rarely do you work less than a 12-hour day in the film industry.
No. Yeah, I'll never live near a cemetery.
Right? Yeah.
They did that one in Toronto.
Yeah.
Where it was like they had like.
That's why you're right.
Probably. But the ones that they were doing in Toronto, that was like they had like the guy that would come in the house and say, "Oh, your house is level. That's why this door swings closed. Oh, the thing's jingling tonight. Well, you have a train tracks that are like 20 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they had one, and then they'd have the historian, and then the Windsor Hum would be a whole great episode. Yeah, right. You know what? And I lived on the west side for a period, for a few years, and I can tell you, if you've ever had a bass system in your car, you know that hum, and it's like sitting there at 2 in the morning, and you're like,
I've seen like people's guitar strings start just rattling. When I moved back from Los Angeles beginning of 2021, we just bought a house where we were renting on the west side, not far from like the train tunnel, right? And the first couple times it happened, I was like, because in LA I'm used to like the earthquakes every once in a while, but all of a sudden I just feel like on a Zoom meeting, like the whole camera is like shaking. I'm like, wait, everything's shaking. What the fuck is happening? Is there an earthquake in Windsor? And I'm like, oh, I'm just several blocks from the train tunnel. So every time a train goes by, it just rattles the whole building just enough to be noticed. So you working there in the where happens?
You look at me after the camera.
All right. Are you going to be in this picture?
Yeah. Okay. So tell me what you are doing here.
I'm for my pitch for Plug and Play at the Metaverse movie, Johnny Deppalooza. I can't read.
Okay. What you are doing here?
I'm here pitching my movie, dude. And I was going to tell you my script, but it don't matter. I sent it to TV1. And I'm waiting for a reply through email. I sent it out. I'm going to use this as a hub to film all the movies for music, Windsor musicians, Windsor's actors, Windsor's cameraman, Windsor's writers, producers, directors, composers. So I'm a manager, producer, director, composer of my own movie I'm making now, filming you, filming me. Capiche? I forget your name? Rawad. Rawad from live at the Metaverse campus headquarters. Movie coming soon. Maybe Tony Monaco is going to be in it, so we're gonna figure things out. Thanks for having me. Be fresh, be focused, be true, and be back for more. Plug and Play.
Okay, you are going to have Johnny Depp in your film?
Huh?
You are going to have Johnny Depp in your film?
Johnny Depp?
Yeah.
No, Tony Monaco.
Okay.
I asked him. Very nice. Good for you, man. So, can we do an interview with me?
Yeah, why not? Tell me what you are doing here.
All right. Let me get my stuff.
But I don't have any video, script writing.
You have to send it to me.
I need to act.
The matter is the most important thing in all the story.
So your eyes, look at the camera. Are you looking at me or are we doing an interview? So we're doing an interview. Teach me how to do an interview. Hold on.
Facebook and
Let me get up closer.
I used to teach in Beirut.
Oh, you used to teach. Beirut?
Yeah. When I was in Beirut, I was a university instructor.
yeah, they're popular, so everybody just.
I used to tell my students, photography is not what they see.
No?
Photography is always what you want them to see.
Yes.
Not what they see, what you want them to see.
Yes, I believe. So you want a popular subject.
Any subject.
You want a pretty girl, you want a good-looking guy, that gets people's attention, right? That gets, like a pretty woman, gorgeous woman, a dirty woman, that's what you like, right? It's all about the bread.